Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the July 24th, 2024 meeting of the Fond du Lac City Council. The first item of business is roll call, which is done electronically, and I will declare a quorum is present. The next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, which is followed by a moment of silent reflection. Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on our agenda is public hearings, and we have none. So we move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda finalizes the proposed action for the meeting: A, July 10th, 2024 minutes, and B, list of claims dated July 17th, 2024. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Godfrey and second by Mr. Heisler. Are there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is audience comments. Agenda and non-agenda items. The presiding officer will limit speaking time for non-agenda items to 1 minute and items noticed on the agenda to 5 minutes. Ms. Hefter, do we have anyone wishing to speak? We do not, so that closes our audience comments. Next, we'll move on to our action items. Action item A, change of agent, Class A intoxicating and Class A fermented malt license, Corporation Scoggins Food Liner, Inc., agent name Jared Tigert, agent address 27 Lake Street, Oshkosh, business name Festival Foods, and business address 1125 East Johnson Street. Our introduction is by our city clerk, Ms. Hefter.
Thank you, President Brauld. This is a standard agent change for Festival Foods for their Class A liquor license. Background checks were done on the proposed agent, Jared Tigert, and city staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Hefter? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Schussler and second by Ms. Leering. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Item B is resolution number 9137, a resolution approving a state municipal agreement covering the 2024 to 2029 Department of Transportation Local Bridge Program for the West Branch Fond du Lac River Bridge located on Hickory Street. And our introduction is our city engineer, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, President Brauld. This is a state municipal agreement for the Hickory Street Bridge Replacement Project. The city has been approved through WSDOT's local bridge program for construction funding to replace the existing Hickory Street Bridge over the west branch of the Fond du Lac River. The existing bridge is about 60 years old, and it's getting time to replace this bridge. So the city applied for funds and has been awarded them in the amount of 80% to be funded by the state, and then the remaining 20% to be locally funded. This SMA would authorize the DOT to proceed with this project and allow city to enter into a construction or a design contract with a local consulting firm to design the bridge. The construction for this particular bridge is scheduled for 2029. Engineering and Traffic recommends approval of this state municipal agreement. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson? And we'll start with Mr. Heisler.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thanks for the information. Just as a general question, can you just kind of give us a general timeline on how long a bridge of this size would take to be replaced? We're starting in 2029. When will we be looking at completion?
If they start the construction in 2029, it'll be completed in 2029.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's all I need to know.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Johnson? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, wait, hold on. We have a question for Mr. Schussler. Thank you.
My contraption didn't work so well.
Sorry.
I was just curious how you or the state decides on who does the design work.
The city designs or determines who does the design work.
How do we do that?
What we'll end up doing is we'll put out a request for proposals to a bunch of local design firms, have them submit those proposals. We'll review them, rate them, and then make a recommendation as to who to award the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, now I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Heisler and second by Mr. Mullen. Are there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Moving on to item C, ordinance number 3788A, an ordinance annexing property to the city of Fond du Lac and change limits to include property in the north area of 4th Street Road and west of Highway 151. And our introduction is our Community Development Director, Ms. Benson.
Thank you, Ms. Brault. This sounds so familiar, as if we've already discussed this, and which you have. And so we brought it back to you because it was really a great project. And so, but no, in all seriousness, when we do an annexation, we provide a legal exhibit, and we need to present that to the Wisconsin Department of Administration for review. And we inadvertently excluded the right-of-way. So while our right-of-way, it connects us to the parcel, there was a strip of Wisconsin Department of Transportation right-of-way that we forgot to include in the legal description. So we have to do this part all over again. The zoning for the parcel still stands because we generally do not zone right-of-way. And so while right-of-way by any other name is still the same, the state wants us to include it. So therefore, we recommend that you adopt the ordinance correcting the legal exhibit and allowing for this parcel to come into the city because they need to connect to the sanitary sewer and water.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Benson? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Schussler and second by Mr. Heisler. Are there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Item D is ordinance number 3792, an ordinance annexing property to the city of Fond du Lac and change limits to include property in the west of County Highway V and south of East Pioneer Road. And our introduction again is our Community Development Director, Ms. Benson.
Thank you, Ms. Brault. This property is located on Pioneer Road. It is the Apostolic Christian Church. And so they are looking to annex into the city because once again, they need to have access to our sanitary sewer and water. And why wouldn't they? You just saw the Public Works presentation. We're great. So with that, so the first step in the process is to approve the ordinance that would annex this parcel into the city. It's adjoining the city municipal boundary, so it is appropriate for the annexation, and it is also part of our growth agreement.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Benson? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Zimmerman, second by Mr. Godfrey. Are there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Item E is ordinance number 3793, a zoning ordinance to zone annexed property to R4, multifamily residential, 0.62 acres of land on East Pioneer Road. And our introduction, once again, is our Community Development Director, Ms. Benson.
Thank you, Ms. Brault. So congratulations, you've just grown the city by a parcel. So as we all know, that each parcel within the city has a zoning designation, which controls what kind of land use can occur on that parcel. Churches are permitted in residential districts. The most adjacent residential zoning or zoning district is residential R4. And since we don't do spot zoning, we want to encompass that district. So the recommendation is to zone the property R4 multifamily, which still allows it to remain a church.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Benson? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Mullen and second by Mr. Godfrey. Are there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Benson. And with that, that ends our action items, so we will move on to the presentation of input items. Our first item is a 2025 Police Department budget presentation presented by Police Chief Goldstein.
Vice President a minute here. Thank you. Okay, thank you, President Brault and members of City Council. I am honored to provide an overview of the Police Department's budget tonight. I'm excited to share with you all our progress tonight over the past 12 months. Tonight, I will provide a brief overview of our department from budget to statistics and also highlight several accomplishments based on our 2024 goals and objectives. Tonight, we're going to talk about what a police department budget of approximately $12.4 million provides the city, community members, and its visitors. 87% of the budget is in one way, shape, or form for people. The remaining is the stuff that assists our people in carrying out our mission, from custodial services, office and evidence supplies, training, equipment, and uniform. These necessities make up the rest of our operating budget. We also have our capital improvement projects where the requested funding is either provided by general obligation debt or tax levy. We research, plan, and develop capital improvement project plans for both short-term needs like squad cars with the city fleet manager and city mechanics, and long-term needs like building renovations with our city finance and city community development to ensure projects are thoughtful and fiscally responsible. In 2025, our largest CIP requests are for the next phase of our renovations for the PD, our evidence cold storage roof replacement, and our squad car replacement program. Here's our department makeup. As you can see, we have 79 police officers. We have 10 non-sworn members that could be supervisors, managers of our records clerks, records bureau, property and evidence control unit, and 1 administrative assistant. We average anywhere from 6 to 9 community service officers that work with us part-time. We have 11 crossing guards and 6 police chaplains. Nearly 115 officers, staff, and volunteers who support our mission. We have great people who work at the Fond du Lac Police Department. We also share a state-of-the-art public safety training center with fire rescue. However, we do not have any designated staff assigned to the training center. Here are a few highlights of statistics as a result of our mission. This is for 2023. And as you can see, 100% accountability in tracking, review, and analysis, and I want to concentrate on those first 4 bullet points. So for the first one, you see 4,536 pieces of evidence or property was processed in 2023, so nearly 400 pieces a month. As an accredited agency, we conduct evidence and property inspections and audits to include random audits, and I'm here to say we are 100% accountable for every single piece of property and evidence and follow industry best practices. Then you see that number that's just under 100,000, 96,279, it says Axon evidence files. Those are our body-worn camera files and squad car videos. So nearly 8,000 a month we're processing. To assist with that 100% accountability, we have implemented mandatory random quarterly audits of each officer's body-worn camera videos to ensure adherence to policy. Our officers have really bought into our body-worn camera program and embraced their benefits, like documenting evidence, resolving frivolous complaints, transparency, etc. Then you'll see in 2023, we had 137 reportable use of force incidents. And when I say reportable, that is if we had our hands on somebody and potentially caused pain, that would be that threshold. Our officers, SROs, detectives, and supervisors have hundreds of thousands of contacts with community members, students, and visitors throughout the year. 99.68% of our contacts do not involve any use of force. Also, to note, we had 203 incidents last year that rose to the level of a perception where deadly force may be needed to stop a threat of great bodily harm and or death to a person or officer, and our officers pointed a firearm at another individual. Like our use of force, we track, review, and analyze each show of force too. Given our officers' training, high character, high ethics, and values, and ability to communicate, they were able to de-escalate each and every one of those often chaotic, dynamic, and dangerous incidents with no law enforcement shots fired, 203 times. Other noteworthy statistics, you can see we had 18 reportable vehicle pursuits, which is only 0.04% of all events. In 2023, we responded to 42,459 calls for service, so just under 3,600 a month. We processed nearly 3,000 open record requests. And something new bringing to you that I've been tracking for a number of years is Language Line, and it's a resource we use for somebody that may not be English speaking. And if you can look, starting in 2020, we approximately used about $45 a month out of our operating funds. 21, 185, 2022, 470, 23, 820, and year to date, just under $1,000 a month in Language Line. Goals and objectives. As an accredited agency, we continually self-assess to ensure we are using best practices, leveraging technology advancements, providing the best training, and have policies, procedures that set high standards for carrying out our mission. I will now provide a brief overview of our department's goals and objectives and highlight recruitment and retention, accreditation and training, engagement, transparency, neighborhood policing, domestic violence, mental health, drugs, weapons, and technology. Recruitment. We are continue to challenge traditional recruitment efforts and are attracting more diversity in lived experiences today than ever before. In September 2021, when I was appointed chief, I was provided with a challenge to address staffing needs, and our department continues to deliver. To put our recruitment, selection, and onboarding of police officers and staff in perspective, 12 new police officers hit the streets. 6 more police officers were sponsored to attend the academy. 6 community service officers started their new positions, and 2 clerks joined the Records Bureau since my last budget presentation. That's right. 26 members were hired and onboarded in just the last 12 months. Retention. Retention starts day one. Field training, professional development, job enrichment opportunities, feeling valued, culture, morale, environment, genuine leadership, support, fit, fulfillment, just to name a few. A people-first vision drove my strategic plan to develop a recruitment and retention police specialist. Officer Cammie Vandermolen joined Lieutenant Ryan Williams in helping us build a supportive, caring environment that prioritizes the health and well-being along with the development of all of our members. Let's take a look at the slide. So if you look in that upper right corner, that is our new Carpool Convos, telling our stories. We post those every couple weeks on Facebook. Our officers are out there, they're driving around the city talking about why they got into this profession, their role models, why Fond du Lac. It really connects us with our community and lets our community get to know our officers on a deeper level. Right under that, you can see that we have the best equipment and vehicles for officer safety. And in that bottom right, we have a workout facility for on-duty workouts. Then if you look in that upper left, you're like, how is this police with battle shifts? Well, we have now monthly team building activities that we do at briefing, where sometimes we play the Price is Right, or we play Pictionary, and we bring fun back to policing. Then under that, we have our day one welcome to the Fond du Lac PD family with a song. And I can tell you this has grown from the first day we've done it. And we really ensure that those that come into our department understand that we are so proud that they're joining our Fond du Lac PD family and being part of this community. And then under that, you have our state-of-the-art training facility. In the middle, you'll see an incredible and meaningful job enrichment opportunities. And through our strategic vision and plan, that list has grown. Cammie and Ryan truly help foster a culture where our members feel valued. Accreditation and training. We pride ourselves on our commitment to the highest of standards that drive us to deliver a service that exceeds our community's expectations. On February 6th of this year, our department was recognized at the Wisconsin Police Leadership Foundation banquet for achieving re-accreditation for another 3 years. Being accredited results in greater accountability, reduced risk and liability exposure, and increased community support and responsiveness. Captain Tony Hahn was also recognized and awarded with the state's 2023 Accreditation Manager of the Year Award. Commitment to our people and high standards also led us to a monster training year. Are you ready for it? We conducted or attended 9,756 hours of training from July 1 of 23 to June 30 of 24. That averaged out to over 143 hours of training per officer. Did you know that the state required standard is 24 hours per officer? Organizational development, Lieutenant Ryan Williams' passion for training is driving us to be the best versions of public safety professionals we can be, and for that, I am extremely proud. And I look at my partner over here to my right. I'm also so proud of the relationship and partnership we have with Fire Rescue. The chiefs from each department meet quarterly for an afternoon. We are committed together to provide the best public safety services to our beloved community, from parades to ice cream socials, to coffee with public safety pop-ups around the city. We are holding hands together. We have tactical emergency medical support, they're also called TEMS, which are paramedics embedded within our SWAT team. You can see a picture of combined departments' physical fitness training on top of one of our parking ramps, Diane. We were okay, but you can imagine how competitive that picture is to the bottom left when they're racing on top of that ramp. And what a better view than on top of that ramp. We conduct rescue task force training where police are paired with paramedics and work together to enter buildings to save lives. And countywide active shooter incident management training where we work with our county law enforcement agencies, communication center, and volunteer fire departments to ensure consistent training models are used throughout our area. Many communities can't say the same. Community engagement. We invest a lot into our officers with the community. We continue to create community engagement activities where community and police have opportunities to understand each other, which leads to increased trust and positive relationships. We believe community engagement fosters togetherness. We are fortunate to have a special relationship with our community, and I can tell you we are a better police department today because of these efforts. If you look at that slide, if you start in the upper left, that was a bike rodeo we just held. The middle big picture, we played kickball, Fire Rescue was there. The top right one, that is one of our youth advocacy engagement field trips. The bottom one, I was there, we were making cards for our veterans. The middle one, the chiefs joined a school resource officer and had pizza at a second grade classroom. I think we had more fun than the kids. And then to the bottom left is our Christmas program, to where we go around the community and do all we can for our community members. Transparency. We continue to have incredible relationships with radio and television, and we're sharing even more information today than ever before. We also leverage social media like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We tell our story to better help our residents understand our approach in policing, because they also play an important role in community safety and crime reduction. Effective communications also help increase transparency, even when dealing with areas where very limited information can be provided to the community. We believe a well-informed community is more engaged and safer. As you can see, we empower our people to tell our story. Chiefs, supervisors, detectives, and specialists, all ambassadors of our brand. Crime rate. There are two main categories that make up our crime rate. Violent crime, which is made up of homicide, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault, and property crime made up of burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. If you look to the right and in that graph, you'll see that our total crime rate, if you look at a short-term, one-year look, that's from 2023, we had an 11.8% increase from the year before in our crime rate. At a middle year look for 5-year, we're a 2% increase. But if you look overall at the 10-year average, we are about 6.2% below our 10-year average. So as you can see, we've had an uptick, but we're still trending in the right direction overall. It really likes to jump, Eric, as you know. Crime statistics. So here is just more of a breakout for violent crime and property crime. So let's look to the right with property crime. If you look at a short-term, midterm, and long-term, our property crime is truly going in the right direction. So overall, our property crime for the 10-year average, we're about 11% below in 2023. Then if you break it out for burglary, we're about 20% below our 10-year average. Thefts about 10% below our 10-year average. Arson 30%, and motor vehicle thefts about 14%. Well, let's look to the left, because that's not the same story, and that's violent crime. And if you look at our short term in 1 year, we've had a 24% increase in our violent crime. If you look to mid at 5 year, it's still at a 15% increase. And if you average 10 years, we're still nearly 30% over our 10-year average. Well, where's that coming from? And if you remember, those 4 categories are right there. So in homicide, if you look at our 10-year average, in 10 years, we usually had between 0 and 2 homicides in the city. If you can see, our last couple of years, we're averaging 4. So we're currently 111% above our 10-year average for homicides. Rape, 6 above. Robberies as a 10-year is 38% below. But really, and you'll see a little bit later in the presentation, is aggravated assaults. We're 41% above our 10-year average. We will continue to analyze the data in both the short term and long term to ensure our organizational goals and objectives deliver a level of service that exceeds our community's expectations. Intelligence-led neighborhood engagement policing. Some of you may recall that back in September 2021, as I was appointed Chief of Police, I began preparing our agency to function as an intelligence-led neighborhood engagement model agency. Just a few months ago, we took a huge step towards this strategic vision. Intelligence-led policing is a collaborative approach combining team problem-solving, information sharing, accountability, and enhanced intelligence operations. I added engagement to our model, so we are driven to develop responses that embody elements supported by the community. In front of you will see our brand new neighborhood engagement leaders. Lieutenant Noble in our northwest neighborhoods, Lieutenant Zauner in our west central neighborhoods, Lieutenant Foster in our east central, Lieutenant Gill in our northeast neighborhoods, Lieutenant Fisher in our southeast neighborhoods, Lieutenant Post in our southwest neighborhoods, Lieutenant Olson is in our business district in those neighborhoods, and then we also have Lieutenant DeJagger, who is doing our analytics. Some of our projects for 2024, in the Northwest, we have the lofts, we have big box retail. Well, did you know, for example, our local Walmart is part of the 14-store Milwaukee region, and our Fond du Lac Walmart is number 1 in gross sales in the region? In Wisconsin, our local Walmart is number 5 in the state. It's an understatement to say our Walmart is busy. With busy comes retail theft calls for service, and those have increased 75% from 2022 to 2023. To give you an idea of numbers, that's going from 181 to 316. To give you a better idea of what it looks like daily, that's going every other day to currently going daily. In 2024, we are on pace to far exceed even that increase by a projected another 20%. So almost 380 to 400, more than one a day. Walmart has accounted for about 80% of our retail theft incidents. We are at the table with Walmart's leadership and loss prevention and working on a resolution together because of our new neighborhood model. Given the work that has occurred so far, we are optimistic on seeing positive results in the near future. This is just one example of how we are working at the neighborhood level with those in the neighborhood to make a positive impact. Other 24 projects in the Southwest, Playmore Park, and the pools. In the West Central, we have a residence. You'll see Highway 23, because we do have traffic issues on Johnson Street, Maplewood, Fairgrounds, and then our business districts. Domestic violence. Domestic violence is a leading cause of our violent crime, aggravated assaults, as I just did a few slides ago. Each year, we respond to a substantial number of domestic violence-related incidents in our community. For example, in 2023, we saw a 3.1% increase in domestic violence which resulted in nearly 10% increase in arrests in domestic violence. In 2023, violent crime aggravated assaults saw a 27% increase from 2022, and in 23, a 41% above the 10-year average. Part of our strategic plan is to implement a full-time position with a focus on domestic violence. With a full-time focus, we will be able to better impact and improve our overall response to domestic violence. We will work to hold offenders fully accountable by ensuring that we build and present the strongest and most prosecutable cases possible to the District Attorney's Office. We will be able to better provide outreach and facilitate access to the tools, resources, and education available to support and assist the individuals and/or families. We will also be able to continue building and maintaining relationships with our many community partners who are all critical in our ongoing collective efforts to reduce, and I would say end, domestic violence in this community. Our domestic violence intervention specialist, Officer Shulgit, which is pictured there, is due to start his new assignment in the fall. Co-response, mental health. Our co-response unit officially just completed their second year. Our co-response unit provides a more efficient and effective response to incidents involving individuals in behavioral health crisis, with a hope that doing so will provide an immediate connection to behavioral health professionals during the time of an active crisis, prevent further justice system involvement in future crisis by connecting individuals with prompt treatment, reduce the number of dispositions to the jail and emergency rooms involving individuals with mental health and or substance use disorders, and reduce the amount of time law enforcement is spending on individuals in behavioral health crisis. If you look at the slide, it's amazing where we're at in year two. For assessments, we saw a 34% increase from year one to year two, and our team did 333 assessments. That's 333 assessments that our police officers would have done without co-response. We saw a decrease, which is what we want to see, in emergency detentions of over 2% from year to year. We saw an increase of voluntary hospitalizations, up to 17%. The safety plans and release to jails saw a decrease and an increase, which just correlates to the data I just gave. But the big thing that you can see on the bottom two is we had nearly a 50% increase in hours on assessments. 445 hours of assessments, our co-response was out in our community, I would say, saving lives. See, when I see Brooke and Kim, I routinely say, go save a life. The work that is being done by our co-response unit is awe-inspiring. So what does all of that percentages and data mean? It's a 70% plus diversion rate away from emergency rooms and jails, which confirms the benefits of this program. Drugs, narcotics. Our new Community Impact Unit was started in May of 2023 to better address quality of life issues in neighborhoods, overdoses, illegal drugs, narcotics use and distribution, weapons violence issues, and traffic education and enforcement. Our Community Impact Unit works hand in hand with our Lake Winnebago Area Metropolitan Enforcement Group, or if you've heard LWAM, used for that for short. LWAM is a 4-county, which is Fond du Lac, Winnebago, Outagamie, and Calumet, narcotics task force that our department participates in and assigns an investigator to combat drug trafficking in our region. You can see that the fentanyl trend we are experiencing is disturbing. It's the one that's in red. Look at the increase in amounts seized from 2019 through the second quarter of 2024. That data just came out. Our narcotics task force has seized enough fentanyl to kill every child and adult living in these 4 counties many times over, and that's just the first half of this year. When we are able to identify and intercept millions of lethal doses of fentanyl and seize hundreds of thousands of doses of other harmful and addictive drugs before they reach the end user, we're saving lives. Weapon violence. Reducing incidents of gun violence arising from criminal misconduct remains a top priority goal. Gun violence is an urgent, complex, and multifaceted problem. We are concentrating our efforts in neighborhoods that need us the most with a comprehensive crime reduction strategy. As a direct result of focused, intelligence-driven policing, we are continuing to see clear and tangible change in our community. Our multifaceted approach has contributed to an 80% reduction in shootings in 2024 as compared to 23 during the same time frame of January through July, and 83.3% reduction when compared to the year before. We are committed to working together with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies to hold violent offenders who choose to put our community at risk responsible for their criminal actions here. In 2022, we started the process with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, also known as ATF, to have a gang and task force member embedded at our department. Well, it just came to fruition, and today Detective Henning worked closely with the ATF as a resource multiplier to combat the weapon violence our community has experienced over the past few years, and we are encouraged by the results. Any shooting or shots fired is unacceptable. We know there's much more work to do, and we will continue to dedicate resources to serve our community. Technology. As police departments around the nation continue to self-assess and improve, we're leading in those efforts. We continue to leverage technology to enhance our mission. New drone technology allows us to fly indoors, which enhances the safety of not only officers, but community members during searches. Our drone and robot unit has become such an integral part of our operations that we are now building out a technology response group unit that will have a specialized transit vehicle available for deployments for enhanced safety of our officers and community. New license plate reader technology is being added around the city to enhance our investigative capabilities for stolen cars, wants and connections with a crime, suspected of being involved in criminal activities like drug trafficking, identification of Amber Alert program vehicles, missing persons, etc. Currently, we have 11 of our budgeted 14 cameras operational around the city. New TASER technology provides our officers with a tool that creates more distance for officers to de-escalate and resolve conflicts. In the event that de-escalation efforts do fail, officers soon will be able to deploy a less than lethal option up to 45 feet away as compared to the current 7 to 15 feet. Our department is rolling this program out in the fall and will be one of the first few agencies in the state of Wisconsin with this better way to stop imminent threats and protect our community and ourselves while also reducing the potential for an officer-involved shooting. We also expanded our less than lethal program this past year with additional 40-millimeter launchers to ensure our patrol officers have the technology to de-escalate and reduce the potential of deadly force. This does not happen without the support of the City Council, city operating and CIP budgets, and support of our community. As chief, my vision is to lead from a deep sense of purpose and commitment to life-affirming values with a core belief in our mission. There needs to be a sense of urgency and safety through real action that promotes diversity and embraces practices that foster equity and inclusion. My vision is beyond a carefully crafted statement to hang on a wall. Everything we do, we point to our mission, vision, core values, foundation beliefs, and department culture. A mission of service, leadership, and protection to all people. A vision anchored in people first, rooted in trust. Core values that embrace honor, integrity, professionalism. Foundational beliefs to be approachable, accessible, professional, understanding, and compassionate. A culture where family is key. Truly an integral living part of our department at every level, starting with me. I hope you have an even better understanding of the police department budget and how we're building a better police through a culture where humanity is not debatable. A culture based on a vision of people first, rooted in trust, core values, beliefs, understanding, compassion, and professionalism. I am grateful to work for the members of the Fond du Lac Police Department on a daily basis and to witness awe-inspiring actions every day. I'm also grateful for the special relationship our department has with our community, and know together we will continue to build upon making Fond du Lac one of the safest and welcoming cities in the nation. I want to thank you for your time and open it up for your questions.
Thank you so much, Chief Goldstein, for that very informative presentation. And now, are there any questions from council members? Mr. Schisler.
With the fentanyl, it seems most of what I read is all federal government, borders, those kinds of strategies. Is there anything in particular that local law enforcement can do to prevent or reduce the trafficking of fentanyl? Or is that something that's more you're coming in after the fact?
It's a pretty loaded question, but I'll do my best, Mr. Schuessler. Our fentanyl, and I'll call it a drugs and narcotic issue, not only locally but in the region and nationally, I would say is a multifaceted problem. And here locally, we're looking at it in two ways, and one would be in mitigation, suppression, and enforcement. But the other one is also having those resources, like our co-response and working with case managers, AODA, is reducing and helping those with addiction. If you can imagine, addiction brings demand, so the demand and the drugs come this way. I think today, we're doing our best locally and in the region. I have, this is my 26th, 27th year, and the communication we have today with our partners in law enforcement, specifically here, hopefully you see a lot of what we do together with the Sheriff's Office, Fire Rescue. We have a lot more communication. We really pool our resources to ensure that we're doing everything we can locally. We're blessed to have, the Sheriff's Office that's on the highway and doing everything they can so that it doesn't enter our city. And then our officers are doing everything they can in our streets to make sure it doesn't hit our city. One of the initiatives we have that we're looking for from our officers is increased traffic stops. And those traffic stops not only, help, you can think of things minor like speeding, but when we're doing some of those traffic stops, we come across those that are coming in our community with not a good intention and bringing that junk here. So I would tell you, the collaboration we have with our agencies today, and that's our local ones in all of Fond du Lac County. There's 10 of us, 10 agencies here. Our regional ones where we get together in that 4-county LWAM, and then our state partners and federal partners are really stepping up and having us come into their organizations, just like we have with Detective Henning and ATF. We have those that also work with the DEA, FBI. So we have a great connection with all of our federal partners to do everything we can to combat this problem. It's bigger than Fond du Lac, Mr. Schuessler.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Leary?
I just want to say thank you for your service to our city, and thank you to the officers for the work they do.
Thank you, Ms. Laring.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council? Well, seeing none, I'd just like to add a couple questions of my own. I was hoping maybe you could expand a little bit on the co-response mental health team, because I know that's something that a lot of people are really interested in. Particularly, I'm wondering if there's a certain shift that they work, that if you found there's a certain time of day that you get more of those types of calls, and possibly if you could maybe provide an example of something that team has done.
And I'd be happy, we could talk all day about that team. And we also have a partner team at the Sheriff's Office too, with Sheila over there, and we have Kim and Brooke. We're tracking, we're collecting a lot of data, as you can imagine. It's in year 2, you're still finding out what data really means, and then we're finding new data points that we want to track. So we only have coverage for 40 hours a week. If I do my math, that's about 120 hours a week that doesn't have a co-response unit. That's an issue, and those are things that we as a community can work towards. Typically, it's really, I would say it follows our calls, and in the city, we have a high call rate from about 10 a.m. to about 8 p.m. So it's really, it truly is like a bell curve. So you have less in the early morning hours, you have a ton between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m., and then it tapers off again. As I look at the data that's come in, I would say that's similar. Now, they have overlapping hours. Officer Brooke Mathis tends to come in a little bit earlier, and then they overlap for like 4 or 5 hours. And Kim Miller usually, will work to 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So we try and cover the most we can. There's 2 really big parts to co-response. And as we do co-response, and you saw that we're doing more assessments and less people going to the ER and less people going to jail, and the diversion is in the safety plans, having people stay at home with what might be guardians, their parents, brothers and sisters, as long as we can do that and it's safe to do that, that is the direction they go there, and they take that time to get those safety plans in place. They create relationships with those that might be high utilizers and call. I can give you, like one success story is we had a gentleman that was calling our dispatch center, which quite frequently every single month. And it really, as they dug in, it was the gentleman was just not taking his medication. And our co-response unit, and you're like, oh my God, this is a police department, but our co-response unit checks in every single day with this gentleman. And there are some times that he can't even get his medicine, and we help him get to his medicine. He has not called dispatch once. He's regulated on his medicine. He's having an incredibly quality of life. That's just one, and that's saving a life. We're pushing, we would love to have like a model where we're doing 80% outreach and 20% assessments. We're not there yet because we're in year 2. Why I say 80% outreach is that way we're going into St. Catharines, we're going, anywhere that we're going to homes, the schools, that we're getting in front of it before it becomes a crisis. So we're helping people through where they're having a lack of stability until they get to a crisis. Right now, because mental health, I would say, is a public health crisis, we're still having a lot more on the crisis level, but we're hoping to, what I call like swim upstream and get more to where, okay, people have ups and downs, we're gonna help them through that, and we're gonna get them the resources now so that we don't have a crisis then, and then they are going, either they do something that they never would have done and it lands them in jail, or they do something to where they have to now be what I call maybe institutionalized or put into a hospital setting. So we're continuing to swim. We're against the current. It is a public health crisis at this time, but couldn't be more proud of Kim and Brooke. And then on the other side, I'll give a shout out to Sheila too, because realistically, just like everything else, they work collaboratively together, and they're saving lives in this community.
Yeah, it's just incredible. Just, that brief overview is just the amount of work that's going into making our community better. Like, thank you for everything that's going into that. Mr. Godfrey.
First and foremost, thank you, Chief, for your presentation, and thank you guys for the amazing work that you guys do. The question I have is the crime stats. When we spoke earlier, I asked you a question about the segregating it by age categories. Are you able to share that with us a little bit about the age categories for the crime stats?
You bet. So, and I appreciate the phone call and diving into the statistics. So, a lot of what we do with transparency is, tell our story, and that's where some people, they're like, well, a lot of this stuff is happening. No, you're just a more well-informed community. So, if you recall the last couple of years, and I've come in front of the city council, we've talked about juvenile violence. And I can tell you, I'll start with the fact this last school year was probably one of the best school years, that I've seen. We talked to Dr. Flagg and his staff. Our swimming pools, best seasons we've seen. We're having still an incredible swimming season this year. So we're seeing some trending in the right direction. I'm hoping we made it through. We had a couple rough years, and if you remember some of the substantiated shootings, that was juveniles. Everyone's shaking their heads. When you look at the crime stats and you break it down, and I looked at, I just looked back because I just got the question just a little bit before coming in here, from 21 to 22 to 23, is it stays about the same in when I look at crime rate. So adult arrests and juvenile arrests in our community, the crime rate, about 80% of the crime is done by adults, 20% of the crime is done by juveniles. That's what it's coming out to. And even with the ebbs and flows of feeling like there was more juvenile violent crime, is it still the percentages of 80, it becomes 80, 81, or 82, they're staying about the same. So juveniles are about 20% of the problem in crime. So, and then you could break it down even to violent crime and property crime, those percentages stay about the same. It doesn't raise higher from juveniles doing more crimes here or there. So about 80% of adults commit a crime, 20% of juveniles.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council? Well, seeing none, just once again, thank you so much for the very informative presentation, and thank you to you and your department for all of the incredible work that you do for our community.
Thank you so much.
All right, and then item B, we have the 2025 Fire and Rescue Budget presentation presented by Fire Chief Garrettson.
All right. Thank you, Madam President. Good evening to the city council members, division heads, and to the awesome citizens of Fond du Lac. On behalf of the 74 hardest working and dedicated members of Fire Rescue, I have the distinct honor and privilege to present our 2025 budget overview. Fond du Lac Fire Rescue takes the responsibility of the budget earnestly, and we are fiscally accountable to the administration, as well as to the citizens of Fond du Lac. We realize that the taxpayers expect the highest level of service at the lowest possible cost. Each member of our agency is dedicated to the vision and execution of cost-effective principles and practice to ensure that there is no wasteful spending within our agency's budget. Fond du Lac Fire Rescue's adopted budget for 2024 was a little over $11.2 million. Of that, just over $11.1 million is derived from the general fund, with the remaining funds from special revenue budgets. Within the general fund dollars, there are two main areas of expenditures. The first is workforce expenses, and the second is contracted services, materials, and supplies. The expenditures for members of the fire rescue account for about 88% of the general fund, leaving around 12% remaining for equipment, supplies needed to carry out all of our functions, including the maintenance of facilities and apparatus that operate our fire department. Tonight, I will be explaining exactly what services the citizens receive for the allotted $11.2 million. As mentioned, workforce personnel attribute for 88% of the budget. So as in years past, I always like to start with an introduction of the tremendous staff that make up the Fond du Lac Fire Rescue family. Before you, you see the leadership team for Fire Rescue's command staff. These members work tirelessly on all administrative practices to ensure that we are providing the very best service to the community of Fond du Lac. Assistant Chief Knowles is tasked with all the aspects that deal with fire operations. Jim is a 27-year veteran that has a vast knowledge of the fire service and is the foremost expert on fire operations, training, and education. Assistant Chief Schumacher brings the responsibility of managing and running our EMS division. Garth brings 24 years of experience and is tasked with EMS operations, as well as he is our newly appointed accreditation manager. Next is our Division Chief of Community Risk Reduction and Life Safety, Jason Roberts. Jason continues to make an impressive impact in the field of community risk reduction, finding new solutions to longstanding problems, as well as performing inspections, certifying alarms and suppression systems, and implementation of fire prevention programs. Next is our Office Manager, Lori Mutner. Lori is a tremendous asset with amazing talents, and she keeps our agency moving forward in the right direction. Lori continues to impress everyone at Fire Rescue, as well as any person that is lucky enough to cross paths with her. The last member to round out our administrative team is Community Risk Reduction Specialist Rachel Vaughn. Fairly new to this position, Rachel has learned and created many programs and processes of community risk reduction that directly benefit the citizens we serve. We are excited for what Rachel will continue to bring to risk reduction efforts in the future. Fire Rescue operates on a 3-platoon system protecting the city 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. These shift members fulfill the mission, planning, and expectations that the command staff lay out for them. These members are arguably the best officers, engineers, and firefighter paramedics that you will ever encounter. Shift A consists of 23 members shown here, led by Battalion Chief Jim Wamser and his 4 lieutenants. There are 4 engineers that maintain and drive our heavy equipment apparatus, and rounding out the crew are the remaining 14 firefighter paramedics. Next are the 22 members that make up B Shift. Battalion Chief Ben Stefani leads this crew along with the assistance of his 4 officers. The crew is rounded out with an additional 4 engineers and 13 firefighter paramedics. Shown here are the boots-on-the-ground members that fulfill the mission and accomplish so many great things on a day-to-day basis. Last but certainly not least is C Shift. This crew makeup is 14 firefighter paramedics, 4 apparatus engineers, and 4 officers. They are led by Battalion Chief Joe Miramonte. As previously stated, these are the bravest and most professional fire rescue personnel in the nation, and these members make up for 88% of the fire department budget. I will tell you this about your fire rescue family. Fond du Lac has the very best, highest skilled, and most dedicated men and women serving the city of Fond du Lac. We are extremely fortunate to have them on the domestic front lines protecting our community. The mission of any agency provides the guiding principles for the organization's existence. The men and women that I had just introduced to you in the previous slides live by the following mission: to provide the utmost level of service. Our mission is that we are a professional, highly skilled organization that provides an efficient response to all emergency and improves public safety for those we serve. Although our mission statement is short and concise, it truly defines everything we do, from emergency response to risk reduction practices to public relations and education activities in our community. We're a professional, high-powered agency that continues to strive for excellence. This includes our accreditation status through the Center of Public Safety Excellence. Being accredited provides a way to evaluate our department as it compares to the industry best practice and standards. We are evaluated and verified on annual performance indicators and must meet minimum standards in order to remain accredited. Fond du Lac Fire Rescue is one of 11 departments in the state of Wisconsin and only one of 308 accredited fire departments in the entire world. This puts us in a very small population of fire departments and provides proof that our organization strives for excellence. Additionally, Fond du Lac's public protection classification by the Insurance Services Offices has ranked us a Class 1 status fire department, which is the highest classification an agency can receive. There are only 503 fire departments in the United States with a Class 1 ranking, which equates to less than 2% of all fire departments in the nation. In Wisconsin, Fond du Lac is one of 10 other departments with the Class 1 rating. There are only 122 fire departments that have reached the accreditation status and an ISO 1 classification in the entire nation. Fond du Lac Fire Rescue is one of them and was actually the first in the state of Wisconsin to reach both of these milestones, providing evidence that we are highly skilled, high-performing, and high-powered fire rescue agency. Call volume. In 2023, our agency responded to a record-setting total of 7,963 calls for service to the community. Those incidents are broken down into 6,445 pre-hospital emergency medical incidents and 1,518 fire-related incidents. As you can see by this breakdown, our agency is extremely busy responding to over 22 calls each and every day. In drilling down further into the incident types our crews respond to day in and day out, you will see that these are our calls for service. On the EMS side, you will notice we respond to about 1,427 falls and lift assists annually. Our Community Risk Reduction Division is working with our community partners to develop solutions for prevention of falls. Other notable incidents are outlined here, including traumatic injuries, cardiac-related incidents, and overdoses. These overdoses continue to be an epidemic problem, even with the availability of so many great programs and resources. Substance abuse still remains to be a substantial issue within our community. Switching to the fire side of our job, you will notice the breakdown as outlined, showing the most frequent incident types we respond to. Service calls and false alarms top the list in the amount of fire work we do. Fire alarms are increasing at a steady pace, and we are focused on trying to reduce those numbers. Service calls include everything from elevator rescues to burning complaints to animal and duckling rescues. These calls are for assistance and support that no one else is able to perform. When it comes to high-risk incidents, you will notice that in 2023, we responded to 107 confirmed structure fires, as well as 115 hazardous condition incidents. These type of incidents include gas leaks, carbon monoxide calls, down power lines, and vehicle extrications. As mentioned, the single greatest call for service on the fire side of the house are false alarms. False alarms are an area of focus that our agency would like to reduce. Although there are many incidents where false alarms are created due to mechanical, electrical, or weather-related causes, there are still many more that are due to non-compliance of systems, improper maintenance, or even as a result of poor system design. The latter of these examples are the incidents that we are going to focus our efforts on to reduce multiple occurrences of false alarms at a single location. On the EMS side of the house, we are seeing a major increase in falls and lift assists. Many of these calls for service are due to trips, slips, and falls in the home, and for the most part are preventable. Over the past couple of years, we have partnered with the ADRC to try to get the vulnerable population the help needed to reduce and prevent these falls. Many times, a simple fall results in the start of what can turn out to a greater and more serious health issue. If we can prevent these falls, we can keep the older population in their homes longer and reduce the risk of serious long-term health concerns. The chart shows the total number of lift assist and fall calls versus the amount of no transports we perform annually. Fond du Lac Fire Rescue is implementing many strategies to try to reduce these two identified areas of concern. One of the tactics that we will include in this year's budget is an adjustment to the fee schedule. Although the fee changes are minor, they are targeting the mega users of lift assists and false alarms. The hope is that by making these changes, we are steering or strongly encouraging them to use the programs available and opportunities to improve their situation. The changes would be the following. Currently, we charge for lift assist calls at residential care facilities. That schedule is outlined in the left box and is only shown as a baseline of information, as this portion of the fee schedule is not changing. The center box shows the new proposed lift assist schedule that will be applied to any resident that calls for multiple lift assists. There is no charge for the first 3 incidents, and then during the 4th response, there is a fee applied, which will be forgiven if the patient enrolls in a fall prevention program. There is a charge for every call after 4. This once again is targeted toward the mega user, not the citizen that has a low occurrence accidental fall. This program resets each year on January 1st, so the slight occasion that a citizen may have this happen, no fees will be applied. The box on the right shows the current policy and the increase for fees for false alarms. This change provides encouragement for businesses to get their systems in proper working order and repair deficiencies in a timely manner. Before moving on to what is planned for the 2025 CIP budget, I wanted to cover 2 items that you graciously approved last year for the 2024 capital improvement cycle. The first is the apparatus overhead door replacement project at Station 1. This project was needed as the doors are from the original build of the station back in 1997. With new technology and door manufacturing, the doors open and close at a much faster pace, saving energy costs and improving our responses out of the station. I think this video will be self-explanatory as to why it was so important to invest in a solution for an old and aging problem. Not an altered video, that is the truth. So that was a great improvement for us. The second request for 2024 was a feasibility study to look at a possible expansion project to include a 4th fire station. Earlier this year, we had hired a firm to complete a GIS study along with a programming study. The GIS portion had just been completed last week, and the conceptual and programming study will kick off during the 2nd week of August. Within the feasibility study scope of work, our vendor will be presenting findings to our governing body as part of the deliverable package. Until then, I wanted to show a few snips from the GIS study. The first map shows the fire responses broken down in a heat map. The dark red coloring shows where the highest occurrence of fire responses were for the past 4 years. The next heat map shows the EMS responses. Much like the last slide, the dark blue coloring shows the highest occurrence of our EMS responses were over the last 4 years. Within the GIS study, there are many other data points, including current response times, along with predicted response improvements by adding an additional fire station in the city. Stay tuned, as there will be much more information presented to you in the near future on this subject. The 2025 Fire Rescue is planning the following capital improvement projects. Number 1, continuing with the apparatus door replacement for Station 3, which currently have the old-style doors like the ones shown in the previous slide. Station 4 project, should the feasibility study be favorable, there is funds slated for the next step in the process, which would be station design. Number 3, in 2025, we are due for an ambulance replacement within the replacement cycle. These paramedic units are set for replacement every 2 years. Number 4, our cardiac monitors are reaching the end of their life as they are 15 years old. The reliability, maintenance, and technology of these critical pieces of life-saving equipment are well overdue for replacement. Last item on the 2025 CIP request is a replacement of a fire engine. As you can see, there is an asterisk by this request. This is due to the extended order-to-build times. Currently, it takes approximately 4 to 5 years from the time you order a fire truck to the time it is built. Our replacement cycle for our new apparatus is slated for 2026, so moving this purchase up to 2025, we are hoping to take delivery in 2028. These long order-to-build times have become common practice in the industry. So as City Manager had mentioned in the initial budget presentation overview, we are needing to adjust to this process in order to order these vehicles in earlier years so that the replacement cycle does not get completely turned upside down. Fond du Lac Fire Rescue is a community-driven fire department, which exemplifies the spirit of collaboration within public service. We are rooted deeply within the community and operate on the principle that safety and emergency response are collective responsibilities. This department, more than ever before, actively engages with local residents, fostering strong relationships and building trust through outreach programs, educational opportunities, and community events. By attending these events and maintaining open lines of communication with prioritizing the needs and the feedback of the community, Fire Rescue not only enhances its operational effectiveness, but also strengthens the community's resilience and preparedness for emergencies. In summary, Fond du Lac Fire Rescue is dedicated to being fiscally responsible and use the funds provided to us by the city to their optimal level. We are committed to the continuous improvement process through risk analysis and self-assessment, which provides the establishment of community involvement and adopted performance measures. Most importantly, Fire Rescue is devoted to providing the very best service to the citizens of Fond du Lac by applying our core mission and the resources and financial support provided to us by the citizens we serve. In closing, on behalf of the 74 bravest, hardest working, and dedicated individuals, I would like to thank City Manager Joe Moore, Finance Director Tricia Davey, City staff, City Council, and the City of Fond du Lac for allowing us to provide emergency services to this awesome community that we truly love, admire, and adore. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Garrettson, for that incredible presentation. What are we pointing out here? The collaboration.
I know. One of my favorite pictures.
All right, we have a few questions from council, so we'll start with Ms. Leering.
I just want to also thank you, Chief Garrettson, for your service to our community and for the firefighter service to our community and the accreditation and the #1 rating. That's awesome.
Thank you. Mr. Schisler.
Thank you. Chief, I was wondering how the hiring and retention is going this year as compared to last year, the previous years?
I would say we are fully staffed right now. We have 6 that are in field training, and we're hoping that we'll be able to get them on the floor and out on the street probably within the next month and a half. As far as retention, we have been able to retain most of our members. Once in a while, we'll lose one that we might hire from up in the valley, and that person might want to go closer to home. But we have been able to retain most of our staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mullen?
Thank you, Chief, for your presentation. I just wanted to kind of emphasize for everybody and the folks at home that the police and fire, 75 to 80% of your calls are rescue calls. I mean, you're a fire department, but fires are kind of just a minor thing you do relative to the amount of rescue. And you already answered my question about the staffing. So you anticipate certainly by the end of this year, you will be fully staffed with everybody who has been hired in the last couple of years, has completed their probation and are now.
Yep, they have been able to do their field training, and they'll be able to be released as a full-fledged paramedic.
Great. All right, well, you guys are fantastic, and thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Zimmerman?
Thank you. I just wanted to give a special shout out to Life Safety Jason Roberts. He helped me put a car seat in my vehicle and gave my wife some peace of mind.
Awesome.
And he went above and beyond. It was pouring that day, and he actually emptied a bay for us. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. But no, both of your guys' department, I mean, you're an easy sell to the citizens. So, I mean, it's cut and dry, it's to the point, and that's what I love. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council? Well, I'll just, add my thank yous and just the amazing work that you do. It's just incredible. The collaboration with the community, both you and Chief Goldstein talked about this, and today was one of my favorite events. The library hosted the Touch a Truck event, and we had, many members of Public Works. We also had the fire truck, which was very, very popular. Lots of kids wanted to go see the fire truck.
The fire truck is red.
But just both of your departments, you do so much to engage with our residents, especially our children. And as a parent, I just appreciate that so much. Although I will say, Chief Goldstein, you had a picture of one of my kids in your presentation, and I don't think I saw my kids in yours.
Oh, geez. Note to self. Write that down.
But really, it's just so, I appreciate it so much, and it's just incredible what all of you do, so thank you. And with that, I don't see any other questions, so thank you. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Zimmerman, second by Mr. Godfrey. This is not debatable. Please proceed to vote. All right, and that passes unanimously. We are adjourned.